Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Tuscaloosa. I'm the minister, Ruth Van Lillian. We are a covenantal community founded on love and a common devotion to our free faith. As we celebrate the many festivals of harvest and the coming of winter, let us welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad that you are here. We invite you to connect with us in the comments or via our Facebook page or website. We join with all member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association in affirming and promoting the inherent dignity and worth of every person, and justice, equity, and compassion in all human interactions and all systems of society. We bear witness to the pain and suffering of Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color in all communities across this nation, and we continue in our commitment to dismantle systems of oppression in order to build a better world. Black Lives Matter.
Good morning. I'm Anna Schubert, the lay service leader for today. There is a link in our order of service in the video description below, along with other useful information. If you are viewing from a smart TV, you may not be able to see the links and comments below. In that case, you can access the links and comments by going to the UU Congregation of Tuscaloosa YouTube channel through the YouTube app on your smartphone, tablet, or personal computer. There are a number of important announcements in the order of service, so be sure to check. Our church website and Facebook page have information about our online activities. Also, members and friends should read all the Newsnet emails and our monthly newsletter to stay updated on congregational matters. We also invite you to our online Zoom coffee hour immediately following this service so that we may join together in real time for community and fellowship. See the link in the links and comments below or in the Newsnet email. The prelude prepares us for the service.
Good morning, we are Tuscaloosa, and we are lighting this morning chalice.
We light the chalice at the beginning of worship to set apart the space for worship, and we invite you at home to light a candle, light a chalice, burn some incense, spray some air freshener, whatever you need to do to set apart this time at home for worship with your community.
We light this chalice as a beacon of our faith and as a reminder of our commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We worship together by celebrating that which is sacred to us individually and collectively.
Opening words. Compassion hurts. When you feel connected to everything, you also feel responsible for everything, and you cannot turn away. Your destiny is bound with the destiny of others. You must either learn to carry the universe or be crushed by it. You must grow strong enough to love the world, yet empty enough to sit down at the same table with the worst horrors.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free of hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our own need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
When we gather in loving community, we remember that we do not travel this earth alone. We share our lives as we light candles and hold each other in meditative thought and reverence. I will light a candle in my home as you light a candle in yours, and we will observe a moment of silence while you share your joys and burdens in the comments below and engage with each other in celebration and condolences.
Let us spend a few moments in meditation, and I'll offer a few words and close. In this season of cold and dark, let us remember that the light shines within ourselves, and let us find ever new ways to shine our light and share it with those in need. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. I will light a final candle for all concerns and celebrations which went unspoken today. Good morning. Today we're going to talk about our 6th Unitarian Universalist principle. Hi, remember me? I'm Reverend Ruth, your minister. Good to see you. We are Unitarian Universalists, and we affirm and promote 7 principles. The 6th of those principles is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. World community means a world where everyone can live with safety and respect and opportunity, where there is peace and no fear of violence in their lives, where they have liberty or freedom to make choices while respecting each other, and where they can expect to be treated with justice and equity in all areas. Wait a minute, Rev Ruth, how is that possible? There are so many things wrong in the world. There are bad leaders who hurt their people. People are just sometimes mean to each other. They say ugly things and they do ugly things to one another. And then sometimes people take from each other. Stronger people take from weaker people, and that's not fair. And some people don't even have a decent house to live in. And where are they going to sleep every night? And sadly, there's so many people who go hungry every day, who don't have enough food to eat. How can we make this possible? Well, it begins by imagining it, by thinking about it in our heads, and then feeling it in our hearts, compassion and love for people, which motivates us. And then we must work together to use our resources and our abilities to make these changes. World community is not an easy thing, and it isn't going to happen quickly, but we mustn't give up. And we start here in our own congregation, and you are a part of that. So remember our Unitarian Universalist sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Out of gratitude for all we have been given and all we have now, we share our resources because we love and trust each other, and because this church enriches our lives and empowers us to make a world a better place. We rely upon each other, members and friends, and we appreciate the payment of pledges and the generous donations to support the legacy, vision, and work of this church community. Contributions may be made by PayPal by using the link below in the description or mailing checks to UUCT. All undesignated contributions will be divided between our Split the Plate recipient organization and our congregation. Our Split the Plate partner for this month will be shown on the screen as you are listening to this. Please mark your pledge payments to UUCT in the comments field on PayPal or the memo line of your check. If you prefer to write a check to the selected organization, please mail it directly to the address we include in the description of this video. The offertory music will continue in this window as you open a new window to make your contributions. by the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts, our love is made real. Thank you for your gifts. Good morning. Here we are facing many new beginnings. A new year has just turned the page, and in a week or so, we will have a new government to lead us. There are also new vaccines on the horizon to help us with COVID, although they're slow in getting here. Nonetheless, let us celebrate new starts, new beginnings. Let us also turn to the sixth principle of the Unitarian Universalist, which is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. A very simply stated principle. In fact, many religions have taken on this challenge of establishing a world community through the propagation of their doctrines, faith, and practice. We as UUs are not alone. Baha'i, Buddhism, Benedictine monks, the United Methodist Church, and the Lutheran Church, among others, have all made it a part of their faith practices. What does the term community mean? World community. It covers a lot of space in our plethora of human concerns. It has to do with our ability to cooperate globally on several aspects, such as peace, security, pollution in the air, water and land, the drug trade, the war industry, keeping the world healthy, enforcing global justice for all, eradicating poverty worldwide. The World Health Organization has even made it one of its frontline goals because they understand a world that is just and equitable will also be a healthy world. The Dalai Lama, in the International Journal of Peace Studies, recently noted that the world has grown smaller and the world's people have become almost one community. We see this every day when we find ourselves on the internet connecting with each other over very long distances and marveling with the ease at which we did it. I have students in Kuwait, South Korea, and Thailand, and I can stay in touch without needing a passport, a plane trip, or packing. A friend of mine has a Zoom meeting with people on 3 continents once a week, and the only issue is the different time zones. I can remember as a child writing letters years ago from the foreign countries that I grew up in and waiting weeks and weeks for any sign of a return letter. Now, it is instantly available as long as the internet is working. As the Dalai Lama further points out, that we are also being drawn together by the grave problems we face: overpopulation, dwindling natural resources, and an environmental crisis that threatens our air, water, and trees, along with a vast number of beautiful life forms that are the very foundation of existence on this small planet we share. He says that today's world will require that we keep the oneness of humanity. In the past, isolated communities could afford to think of one another as fundamentally separate and even existed in total isolation. Nowadays, however, events in one part of the world eventually affect the entire planet. Therefore, we have to treat each major local problem as a global concern for the moment it begins. We can no longer invoke the national, racial, or ideological barriers that separate us without destructive repercussions. In the context of our new interdependence, considering the interest of others is clearly the best form of self-interest. This is what is also throwing us into a very precarious moment in human history. We are at the beginning of a paradigm shift, the likes of which we have never encountered in human history. There is no parallel in history that we can look to. The last large paradigm shift We're discovering that we could travel by water to faraway lands. And then the scientific revolution of the mid-1800s. Right now, we are in the midst of a world pandemic, and it won't be the last. We are in the middle of a world without borders due to the use of the World Wide Web. I ask you to spend a moment thinking about the view of our Earth from space. You can't see borders or walls or anything other than a blue ball with some land masses floating in that blueness. That's a peaceful scene. But the reality is that now we are in each other's lives, and there is no place to hide, and often it is not a peaceful place up close and personal. We have existed for centuries as nation states with sovereign borders. Our connections to each other, including trade and law, have depended on those borders. Now we have two inevitable issues: health and environment. Neither of these are affected by borders, and never really were. Neither of these can be solved by one group of people inside the borders in which they exist. We have seen this pandemic cross the borders we have established, and it has gone round the world in a short period of time, and our environment, including air and water, affects the entire world eventually as well. We have tried, well, our government has tried, for the last 4 years to exist outside the international concept of community, insisting that the nation state is enough and we can survive without the rest of the world. What is that old saying? When a butterfly flaps its wings, a wind is created further on. We are the butterfly, and what we do affects the rest of the world, and what they do affects us. We can no longer invoke the national, racial, or ideological barriers that once separated us. One would assume that this world would be concerned, but as you look around, there's a lot of disbelief, a lot of naysayers out there concerning our world community. First, we have those that believe that isolation and the construction of walls will keep the rest of the world at bay. Secondly, we have those people who refuse to live in the reality of a changing world, and they allow their fears of change to lead their point of view. This is not new. When change comes along, there are always those who refuse to participate and believe that if they hold strong to their notions of independence, they will survive, and so will their way of life. We have seen this with changes in racial issues, gender issues, identity issues. New rights and equal rights are always hard to fight for, since someone is bound to feel cheated, and there is no guarantee that once you have those new rights, they will be yours forever, as we are watching happen right now. We will have to develop a greater sense of universal responsibility. Each of us must learn to work not just for his or her own self, family, or nation, but for the benefit of all mankind. Universal responsibility is the real key to human survival. It is the best foundation for world peace, the equitable use of natural resources, and through concern for future generations, the proper care of the environment. This, however, will not be easy. The Dalai Lama reminds us that religions of the world are not exempt from responsibility. He tells us that the purpose of religion is not to build beautiful churches or temples, but to cultivate positive human qualities such as tolerance, generosity, and love. Every world religion, no matter what its philosophical view, is founded first and foremost on the precept that we must reduce our selfishness and serve others. Unfortunately, Sometimes religion itself causes more quarrels than it solves. Practitioners of different faiths should realize that each religious tradition has immense intrinsic value and the means for providing mental and spiritual growth and health. One religion, like a single type of food, cannot satisfy everybody. According to their varying mental dispositions, some people benefit from one kind of teaching, others from another. Each faith has the ability to produce fine, warm-hearted people, and despite their espousal of often contradictory philosophies, all religions have succeeded in doing so to some respect. Thus, there is no reason to engage in divisive religious bigotry and intolerance, and every reason to cherish and respect all forms of spiritual practice. I agree with the Dalai Lama. So how do we begin? We have a clean slate right now as we begin this new year. For over 25 years, I've been a member of a UU faith group. We've worked in our community to make our lives and the lives of our community better. We assist communities with projects that foster democratic practices, social and economic justice, respect and care for the community of life, and the environmental integrity. We work to create a context where people feel inspired to work for positive change. I believe that many people have come through our doors, as I did, looking for that type of work to give their lives meaning and purpose and to be a part of something larger and meaningful. Yes, people go to church for what they call spirituality, but I think it's more for community. For the most part, we can't change the world. Perhaps some of you are more powerful than I. What we can do is work within our community to achieve things that the Dalai Lama asks us to consider. I took a look at the Tuscaloosa community, and there are all sorts of ways we can help work toward a world community right here in our own community. We are not free from the grips of this pandemic, and we may not be till sometime in the fall. But there's still ways that we can work to make our sixth principle vital and alive. Did you know that there are some 70 programs in the state of Alabama that relate to the issues of justice and equity? We have been associated with several of them. But just to give you an idea, there is the Youth Leadership Forum that works with high school sophomores and juniors in leadership roles. Being a mentor is very satisfying. The Alabama Bicycle Coalition that focuses on access and education. Who would have thought bicycles could foster hope? The Alabama Coalition for the Immigrant Justice. A little under 5% of the Alabama population are recent immigrants. The Birmingham Urban League, working with housing issues, mentoring, and workforce development. PFLAG, in support of our LGBTQ friends and family. These are just a few of the local organizations that need help. Within Tuscaloosa, there is One Place Teen Intervention Program, working with teens to keep them out of detention system, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters helping mentor and educate local youth. You should visit our UUCT website to see what programs we are involved with and you can support. Community issues are huge, and perhaps the three most important areas that we can work on are poverty, literacy, and health-related. Right now, in Tuscaloosa County, the poverty rate is 16.2%. That was a statistic from 2019. I am sure that now, during the past 12 months and this pandemic, it is higher. Poverty is considered living below the income of $26,000 per year. The local food closets are under siege, and donations are completely and totally welcomed. UUCT has volunteered with Grace Presbyterian for many years to work and support their local food closet insecurity solutions. We often don't think about food insecurity. I was thrilled to see recently that the Alabama University finally started thinking about it several years ago, asking for students to donate their leftover food money to students who were food insecure. We don't know how many students there are here in Tuscaloosa that are food insecure, sometimes living in their cars, trying to get the education that can lift them out of their situation. Often we don't look around and see hunger, even though it could be right next to us. When you shop, buy 1 or 2 items to hand off to someone who is in need. I have been hungry in the past. It is something that is always on my mind, even though that was many, many years ago. I keep Ziploc bags in my truck with shelf-stable food to hand out when I see a need. Literacy is so important, and once again, something we think little about because most of us here are literate. Currently, in Tuscaloosa County, the illiteracy rate is 23%. To our south in Bibb County, it is 27%. Pickens County to our west is about the same. How is it in the 21st century that we have so many people who cannot read? Many of you are educators and you understand. In the United States, 18 million adults cannot read well enough to be employed. 75% of small businesses in Alabama tell us that many of the job applicants have limited math and reading skills. I remember seeing a young man in Target several years ago trying to fill out a job application form online at the little kiosk they have out front. I saw that he was having trouble reading. I sat down and helped him. 70% of Alabama inmates are functionally illiterate, meaning that whenever they get out of jail, it is unlikely that they will be able to find employment or improve their circumstances. 43% of functionally illiterate people in Alabama live in poverty. If you want to think about how powerful teaching someone to read is, think about this fact. Raising the literacy rate by 1% in a county will be better and do more good than bringing in a certified doctor to the area. Mothers who can read can teach their children to read. They can also read prescriptions and medical information and keep their children safer. If you teach people to read, you save their lives in so many ways. There are lots of programs around town to help people learn to read. When we're not in pandemic mode, I will return to the library, where I always run into all sorts of people learning to read with their tutors 1 hour a week. Racial issues have boiled to the surface in the last 5 or 6 years and offer us all sorts of ways to work on justice and equity. There is a long, long history of race as an issue in our world, and we will never achieve world community if we don't face those issues and work to make things better, make things right. Our path is before us, and the need is huge. We will have to work to not be overwhelmed as we go forward. Since the beginning of the pandemic in March, I have come to learn a new way of being. I have joined the meditation group on Sunday mornings, and the most important lesson I have learned, and the one that I will carry with me going forward, is that sometimes I just need to sit with it. Yes, It's always larger than me and always will be. But if I sit with it and empathize with it, I will have a better chance of enduring and coming out the other side. It's also very hard to sit with anything because most of the UUs I know are action-oriented and doers. We need to propagate kindness and empathy with our world. The best way to find out what you need to work on or do is to sit with it for a while and ask yourself questions about how you can make it better. It is the most important thing I have learned this pandemic year. Most people think they understand empathy. There are several types of empathy. Cognitive empathy, which is identifying with what others feel. Emotional empathy, which is sharing someone's emotions. And finally, empathic concern, which is wanting to help someone improve their circumstances. Empathy inspires kindness. Empathy is in short supply these days. We struggle to understand people who aren't like us and find that sometimes it's easier to hate them. Studies show that we are less caring than we were even 30 years ago. I tell students, and I have probably said it in front of you before, that humans tend to be lazy. We want the easy path, the easy way. We don't like complication, but that is what life is. One large, ongoing complication. Empathy is something that we are not born with. We can learn it, and it sorely needs to be taught and learned today. Perhaps the best way to achieve our sixth principle is through empathy and the sharing of kindness. As the Facebook meme says, if you can be anything in the world, be kind. There is a great book on this topic titled The War for Kindness, Building Empathy in a Fractured World by Jamil Zakay. I highly recommend it. None of this is new. The solutions are not even new and have been around this planet for a long, long time. In the lived experiences of people who live close to the earth and work hard to support each other. I'd like to leave you with the words of Native American author Stan Rushworth, who reminds us that the difference between the Western settler mindset of, I have rights, and the indigenous mindset of, I have obligations. Instead of thinking that we are born with rights, we can choose to think that we are born with obligations to serve the past, the present, and the future generations, and the planet herself. Let us work toward world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. May it be so.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in fountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul, in my soul.
Please say our chalice extinguishing words with us.
As we extinguish this chalice flame, let us remember that we carry the light within ourselves, which brings healing to a broken world and hope for the days ahead.